My name is Paul Rosenfeld. I'm the Democrat committeeman in the 47th Ward, and I'd like to welcome you to the 80. This is the Cook County Democratic Party's podcast about our organization, our candidates, and our leaders. We're currently interviewing our party's endorsed candidates for the 2022 Democratic primary, which is going to be held on June 28th this year, to learn more about their backgrounds and to learn more about their unique stories. Today, I'm very excited that I get the opportunity to interview one of my very favorite candidates of this election cycle, Judge John Ehrlich. John is running for the Appellate Court, and today I'm welcoming him to the 80. John?
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. I just want to say how much I appreciate being endorsed by the Democratic Party, and I have gotten so much support from the 47th Ward and your terrific organization. It really means a lot to me that you're talking to me today in this interview, but 47th Ward has been terrific in supporting me, and I really, truly appreciate it. They've done a great job. I know they're going to do so.
Thank you. We got, I feel honored to be a part of the Cook County Democratic organization. We've got 80 people who are working tirelessly to make sure that we get great candidates up and down the ballot elected. And we feel like you are one of them. And one thing that always comes to my mind that a lot of people don't understand is just how important judges candidates are and how much judges matter. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. The time to be concerned about what judge you're in front of is not when you're in front of the judge. It's when you're voting for the judge. And it's difficult for everybody to know about judges. We're sort of the lost third branch of government, but things like this, the party does, the outreach that it has, the process to become an endorsed candidate through the party. For example, what you all did in the 47th Ward by having a 10-person committee to go in front of, to talk to the judges, is incredibly important to give people information and to know that the Democratic Party does its job. It's highly selective in looking at people, seeing what their qualifications are, and supporting them. And I'm really honored to do it and to be slated. And I just can't express enough how important it is to get good judges on the bench because we need them at all levels, including the Circuit Court and the Appellate Court, and of course the Supreme Court.
We do need them, and clearly we've seen recently with the leaked Supreme Court of the United States briefing on Roe v. Wade, how important judges are at that level. But you're right, John, at every level it's incredibly important. So let me ask you a few Chicago, Cook County type questions for you. First, are you a Cubs fan or are you a White Sox fan?
Oh no, I'm a judge first. It's one thing, no one's going to test my impartiality on sports questions. I support all Chicago sports teams equally. Let's put it that way. But I will say this, having lived in Chicago as long as I have, in the 1990s, when the Bulls were at their peak, that was just a tremendous time because, I mean, they were such a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
And also what they meant to the city was wonderful. I mean, there were everything, there was such everyone was supportive and everyone was in a good mood. And that was just a great time. So I still have a very special place in my heart for the 1990s and the Bulls teams.
Yeah, me too. I remember that a lot of those games were on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I was in my 20s, and Fridays were already going to be fun, but boy, did they make Tuesdays a lot more fun.
Yeah, I remember that too. I was glued to the television.
Yeah. So how about culinary stuff? Do you have favorite kind of Chicago foods? Anything that you love to go to? What's your go-to, John?
Well, my husband and I we love cooking ourselves, but we also like exploring new restaurants. So we always try to go to different places. And, Chicago is, a food city. It didn't used to be, but it sure is now. And particularly now after COVID, it's even more fun to go out and explore new restaurants all over the city. And that's what we try to do, not only the city, but in the suburbs. There's so many good places to go and too many to name.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned, now being out after COVID, tell me about your feeling of just kind of relief to be back out there. I mean, I know you're out there on the campaign trail. You've been visiting everywhere from, as far south as Matson, as far north as, Highland Park, everything in between. What's it been like to be out there again after 2 years of COVID?
Well, that's sort of the best and the worst of it. The driving is the worst part because dealing with traffic and all that is not fun. And when I ran the first time, as a circuit judge, I'm from the 8th sub-circuit, so I had a very small, little parcel of the city to run in. And now finding out how really big Cook County is, I don't know if people know, it is the second largest county in the country after Los Angeles County. And when you're going to events all the time, you rack up the miles on the car. But at the same time, after COVID, I don't complain about any of that because it is so great to go out and meet people, to shake hands with them, to talk to them, to introduce myself, to tell them who I am, what I stand for. It's been really rewarding, and I'll always remember that part of the campaign. It really means a lot, especially now.
Yeah. So, John, I know you're a proud member of the LGBTQ community, and this race is historic. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I would be the very first LGBTQ person from my community ever elected to the Court of Appeals in the state of Illinois in its 204-year history.
Wow.
Yeah, I say it not only as a time, but it's past time. Everybody knows, and it's true that you get better decisions in any decision-making organization, the more voices you have at the table and the more variety of voices you have at the table. And I think that's one of the things that's particularly important about my race is getting that additional voice, a new voice to the appellate court. I think that's especially meaningful. And I don't pretend to live anybody else's minority status by any means, but my husband and I we've had rocks thrown at us, we've had eggs thrown at us. I've been chased down the street by a bunch of homophobes. We've had graffiti put on our house. Luckily, those things were many, many years ago, but I think growing up as a minority and living through things like that makes me as a judge particularly sensitive to the trials and the challenges that other minorities have. And that's something I've always tried to bring to my rulings in terms of sensitivity and understanding, not just the case itself, but understanding what brought the parties to the court to seek resolution. And I think that's another quality, another characteristic that I think is important to have on the appellate court through somebody who's a member of another minority.
Yeah, I agree. And let me echo your words that I think it's not only time, but it's overdue that we have someone from the community there. So cheers to you, and thank you for leading on this. Go ahead.
Thanks. And I was just going to add too, I don't know if people know, but I was at the city of Chicago for many years as an attorney for 18 years. Back in 1996, another judge and I, well, we were both attorneys at the time, Judge Linda Powell and I both worked there. And we were a little angry that we didn't have domestic partner benefits. Both of us had spouses. So I drafted a petition. Linda Powell and I passed it around the attorneys at Corporation Counsel. Within a week, we had 75% of the attorneys sign it. Wow. I took it over to the mayor's office and took it to my alderman, Bernie Hansen, at the time. And within 6 months, by March 1997, we had domestic partner benefits, not just for law department employees, but for all City of Chicago employees. So I'm still very proud of that, and feel like I've done my part of what I can do in the role that I had to do something on behalf of my community, and actually for all City of Chicago employees, regardless of whether they're straight, gay, bi, whatever. If you had a domestic partner, you could then get benefits as of 97.
So you've been a leader, John, on transparency issues. You have been a leader on equality, specifically for the LGBT community. You have gone and spent some of your time researching and understand racial injustice. And then you've been a leader on environmental issues for when the Superfund stuff, when you were working in Congress. It sounds like you got all parts of the Democratic platform kind of covered. Thank you.
Well, I didn't plan it that way, but it just happened, But I've been a lifelong Democrat, and those issues have always spoken to me. And I'll just as an aside, I was born on my grandmother's 69th birthday. I was her birthday present. And I don't know if people know if they speak German. Ehrlich in German means honest, which is a great name for a judge. And my grandmother lived 102. And every time I saw her, she always told me, live up to your name. You know, I never didn't think about it at the time, but I think it ultimately it sank in, and it was something that was always in the back of my head to be honest and to seek honest work and to work honestly. And that really is, I do try to live up to my name. I think it's important, particularly important as a judge. It's critical. Anyway, thanks to my grandma.
Well, and look, those are core values that, you know, I just think, frankly, the Democratic Party is fundamentally right on those issues. And there are differences between our two parties. There is one issue that we haven't brought up yet that's really sad and been in the news more often lately. And that's, of course, the issues around guns and gun control. And with the tragedy that just happened in Texas and so many of the things we're seeing around the world, what can judges do more to help with gun control and gun issues?
A lot of that is going to be left up to the legislature, fortunately or unfortunately as it might be, because it's a public policy issue. The Supreme Court's decisions in the area of gun control certainly permit states to have restrictions on the access to guns. And I think it's something that I have noticed already in California. They've put a new bill in front of the state legislature there with regard to restrictions on access to guns. It's something that states around the country can take advantage of, because the standard under the Second Amendment doesn't prohibit restrictions on access to guns. But as I said, it's a public policy issue. That's something that needs to be debated in the public forum, and I'm all for that. And we as judges then need to enforce whatever the law is, whatever the legislature does. But these tragedies continue, and it seems to me that at a minimum, we need to have a public policy debate, not just in Illinois, but everywhere, about where we go with regard to gun safety.
Yeah, we're unique in our allowance of people of all stripes to have guns without much challenge, without much background check, and all types of weapons. There's no other country quite like us. And unfortunately, there's no other country that has the murder rates that we have as well.
And again, the layering on that from the judicial side is we have federal law, but we also have state law. And I think a lot of this conversation and public debate is going to be held more and more at the state level, and will implicate therefore state courts as well in the conversation.
Yeah. And speaking of state policy, Roe v. Wade, obviously we all saw the leak from the memo from SCOTUS, from the Supreme Court of the United States. It's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be repealed, and states are going to have more responsibility to allow or not allow for abortion rights. Is there thoughts about what will happen here in Illinois?
Well, Illinois has actually made it very easy for judges with the most recent amendments or most recent legislation that's been passed. Illinois is fully supportive of a woman's right to choose. And the way the law is written, it's very clear. There are no exceptions. And as I said, it makes it easy for a judge when the law is as clear as Illinois' law is in supporting a woman's rights. If I ever had a question like that in front of me, I of course would apply the law. But as I said, Illinois law is very clear on that.
Well, that's great, and I'm glad you interpret it that way. That's for sure. We're thrilled. So, John, your race for the appellate court would be historic. First member of the LGBTQ community. There's never been a member of the LGBTQ community on the Supreme Court either. Do you think that might be in your future one day?
Well, I'd have to get a new car in the meantime, but I'm certainly an incrementalist. I take it one step at a time. I really look forward to being on the appellate court and working with colleagues there. I know several people who are on the appellate court, and they really enjoy the work that they do, and I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I would be good at it, and if I didn't think that it was the type of thing that I could make a positive contribution to. So I'll take it one step at a time, but I'm very optimistic about my race, and I'm looking forward to what happens on June 28th. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So, John, you mentioned our process, and I know you went through this process all throughout the Democratic Party. Well, we looked at 40 different judges. We only endorsed, we only endorsed 2 in the appellate court. You were one of them, Grace. The Democratic Party looked at these folks in numerous ways before we came up with our slate of endorsed candidates. And I was wondering how you have done with the bar associations as they've looked at you as well.
Well, I've been found highly qualified by the Chicago Bar Association.
That's great.
The other bar associations have, they all have different rankings or different words that they use. I've been recommended by the Puerto Rican Bar Association. I've been endorsed, I'm not endorsed, I've been found qualified by the Decalogue Society. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name. I've been found qualified by the Decalogue Society. The other bar associations are supposed to be coming out the next couple of weeks, so I'll find out more about it then. I also, though, have recently received the endorsement from Personal PAC and from Chicago Now PAC. Again, in my support of women's rights. So I'm very, very proud of those.
Yeah, that's great. So what else would you like voters to know about John Ehrlich and who you are?
Well, I think the most important thing is I wouldn't expect people to vote for me because I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, that's important, but I wouldn't expect people to vote for me because I'm gay. I would expect them to vote for me because they think I'm qualified and I'm gay. I think the qualifications are the most important thing for somebody who's going on to the appellate court. And I think I've got those qualifications. And the Bar Association certainly seem to think so as well. But again, I think it's having another voice, having another perspective, another person who has sensitivities towards minorities, other minorities, and as well as his own, sets me apart and makes me particularly qualified. And if nothing else, a way of looking at it is a way to be useful for the bench and the bar to have another voice on the appellate court. And let's face it, the judiciary in particular is the entire judicial system is based upon trust. And people have got to be able to trust the judges and the justices that they elect. And I think that's something people should be able to have complete trust in me, that I will take my job absolutely seriously as I've taken being a circuit court judge. They should know that I'll be careful, kind, decisive, but with a friendly voice and an explanatory voice, so that, again, everybody can understand where the court is coming from and where I'm coming from in my decision-making.
That's great. I will also add that I remember one of my lawyers on our committee saying that if you were to ever look at John Ehrlich's key swab for going in and out of the court building, you would see that he is typically the first person in and the last person out. So I'm sure your hard work ethic has earned you a lot of credibility with your colleagues.
Well, I'm the first to admit I'm a law nerd. I love the law. There's nothing I enjoy more than having a really good case that requires research and writing. For me, it's a puzzle. It's an intellectual puzzle, and coming up and crafting an answer to the question that's presented. To me, it's the greatest thing. I know everybody else has pastimes. My pastime is research and writing. I love the law.
That's great. Well, thank you, John. We appreciate that. You are our kind of law nerd. We are thrilled to be supporting you, not only in the 47th Ward, but throughout Cook County. And thank you for your time today on the 80.
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. And again, thanks to the Democratic Party. And again, a special shout out to the 47th Ward. Appreciate all the work you've done for me.
We're thrilled to be supporting you, John, and we look forward to your victory on June 28th.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care.